All right, so Auburn has a big recruiting weekend. Auburn adds Broderick Scholl out of Bixby, Oklahoma, right outside of Texas. And that makes 5 offensive linemen for the Tigers. I think this is a good move for the Tigers as they will lose a lot of production after this season. And, when you look at the tenure of Brian Harsin, during that tenure, you got about 21 guys that were signed and only one left, and that's Jarquez Hunter. I think that's probably the best jewel that Brian Harsin left there. And I think the only reason why he got him because Jarquez Hunter was a late bloomer in the state of Mississippi. Started to get recruited by Mississippi State and Ole Miss down the stretch. But I think Auburn showed him the most love. He was a late bloomer, and he winds up committing to Auburn. Auburn will lose a lot of production at that offensive line position after this year. And in my opinion, I think Auburn really needs to get a couple of more out of the portal after this year because there's still a lot of inexperience, and then you still have to make up for the attrition of lack of production with the offensive line and the fact that they just don't have any guys coming back. So you're still going to have to get a couple of guys out of the portal to supplement until these guys that Auburn has recruited comes up. And, Shaw recently visited Auburn and will more than likely be back on the plains for Big Cat Weekend. That was something that was established by Gene Chizik while he was here. I think that's a pretty good thing. Auburn has actually got some pretty good recruits during that time. Now, as part of a really big recruiting week for Auburn, Auburn also landed Donovan Starr out of Brentwood, Tennessee, mid-level 4-star recruit. I tend to like these types of guys because they're really blue collar, in my opinion. They tend to work hard. They don't have that elitist status. They feel like they have an edge to them to where they have to work hard. I think he's a great athlete, somewhat elite. Did a little track and field in high school. Also active on the special teams. Very good. Now here's what I think about Donovan Starr. I think he's going to be a strong force on the boundary. You probably could even maneuver him around in that star position, nickel position, but I just don't see him as a field cornerback, a guy that can take on that much responsibility. But with his capability athletically, I think on that boundary, he can also test the waters in those long range coverage. Let's just say, you get a team like Missouri that's got some really good receivers. It probably won't happen, obviously won't happen this year. This is a 2025 recruit. But, if a team wants to test deep in that boundary, I think that Donovan Starr is the type of guy that can say, look, this might not be what you want to do, because he handles the long range very well. And I'm really excited about what he can do. Okay, so now for the reason for the video. I think the most impactful players of the 2024 season, some of which haven't even enrolled in campus yet. Some have, I think, some have enrolled in the spring. But some of the most impactful players, I think, number one, Walker White, 6'3" out of Little Rock, Arkansas, passed for 2,700 yards and 27 TDs as a senior, rated in the top 10 QB prospects nationally for the 2025 class. One thing I like about him, he's very cerebral. He has the size. He has the ability to be a Power 5 quarterback. Will that transfer over? See, here's why I want to rate him as an impact player. We don't know if We just don't know. We just don't know if Peyton Thorne is going to pan out. And I like Peyton Thorne. As a matter of fact, going into the Maryland game, I really had a lot of trust in Peyton Thorne My only issue with Peyton Thorne was the fact that it wasn't so much the drop passes, it was just the ill-advised passes that always converts into catastrophic turnovers in the game. Instead of making game breaking plays, he makes game back breaking plays at certain points. And at a certain point, that has to stop. Because if that doesn't stop, especially in the first five, I think Auburn has a really good chance in the first five to be 4-1 going into the Georgia game at worst. I think they should beat, Arkansas, New Mexico, California, Alabama A&M. I think they should go through those teams. I think it's a toss-up. Maybe, the fact that they have Oklahoma at home is a really good thing. Possibly going into the Georgia game 5-0. I really think Auburn has to take advantage of the top half of the schedule to help, Hugh Freeze have a possible legitimate winning season down the stretch. Because you look at the stretch, I think, Auburn has the roster to beat Kentucky. And I think it's going to be a toss-up with Missouri. Georgia obviously has one of the best rosters in the country with, some of the top guys out of high school. And they're still able to get some guys out of transfer portal. Georgia's going to be really hard to beat. Ironically, Georgia schedules Auburn for homecoming, but that's neither here nor there. So, I think, as Auburn looks at this, you look at some of the top players coming into this team this year. Connor Lew, took over at center in the second half of the season with the injury of Avery Jones. He allowed no sacks, and he didn't allow a lot of pressures. I think that's good news. He's coming back, and he also has a lot of experienced guys around him. Auburn actually added Perry Lewis, a huge addition, transfer from Mississippi State. I think he has a much better passing attack potential, and he has a lot less pressure on him coming into this season. I think that's a huge thing. Now, a lot of y'all might argue with me about this. I think you might. And you should, actually, because I think this is a really gamble as far as impact players. And this is Perry Thompson. Perry Thompson, a high-end, this is number 2 on my list now. High-end 4-star recruit, very versatile, especially if he can quickly emerge with his instinct as an offensive and a defensive skill player. I think he could be one of the more impactful players of this season. If this is a big if. Perry Thompson is a big if he can emerge. He's very physical on both sides of the football field. He knows both sides of the football field. And I like his play in the intermediate pass game. I like his play with screens out of the backfield. I like his ability to break tackles. I really like this guy. The next guy up, number 3, Kayin Lee. Played in every game as a true freshman. My favorite game from Kayin Lee was the game against California, where he didn't finish with 20 tackles, but he really made some big plays in that game. But he finished the season with 20 tackles. Really showed against California, Texas A&M, and Georgia that he has the ability to be a very productive cornerback, especially with DJ James leaving the Tigers. All right, so the next up is Keldrick Fault from Highland Home, Alabama. This is like a one traffic light kind of town. Named to the SEC All-Freshman team. The adjustment from high school to college is really hard, especially for the interior line, because it's so physical down there. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to really, I think year 2 is when you really start to be a productive force in that area. He recorded his first sack against Maryland in a bowl game. And that just goes to show, as good as he was, how it's hard to get like legitimate production. But I think he's going to have to step his game up in order for Auburn to be effective down the stretch. And I think this is a good group. You know, I think this is a really good group. You got Connor Lew, Perry Thompson, Kaden Lee, Keldrick Faulk. And I think another guy, that really has to continue his emergence as a mainstay on this defense. He had a breakout season last year. I think he has to do that same thing again. Is Eugene Asante. I think he has to absolutely have that same impact on the Auburn Tigers this year in order for Auburn to be a legitimate force, especially on that defensive side of the field. All right, so let me know what you like about this video. Let me know some video ideas. Go ahead and like this video, comment, and subscribe. Down in Deep South, college football is king, and on the plains of Auburn, the battle cry is War Eagle. My name is Kennard Vernon Stewart. My stage name is Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger. War down.